Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Spear Sports Central. Today, we're going to be ranking every NFL starting quarterback for the 2024 season. And real quick, before we get into my rankings, this is how good I think each quarterback is now, not how good of a season I think they will have. So, beginning at number 32, or the worst starting quarterback in the NFL, that is going to be the Broncos starting quarterback, which will be either Bo Nix or Jarrett Stidham. So, the Broncos currently have two players battling for the starting quarterback position, and we don't know who their starter will be at this moment. Now, the Broncos, if they start Jarrett Stidham, they're starting a quarterback who has not been good at any point in his NFL career, as in 16 games played, he's thrown 8 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. And then if they start Bo Nix, he's a rookie, and you really have no idea what you're going to get with him. I can't rank him too high, but if I'm the Broncos, I would start Bo Nix because he's young and has potential. But either way, the Broncos' starting quarterback is at number 32. Coming in at number 31, we have the Vikings starting quarterback, either Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy. So this is another quarterback battle where the Vikings can start either free agent signing Sam Darnold, or they can start the number 10 overall pick, J.J. McCarthy. Now, if the Vikings start Sam Darnold, they're starting a player who's never lived up to the hype of being the third overall pick in the 2018 draft, and in his career has 76 touchdowns to 75 career turnovers. Then J.J. McCarthy, the 10th overall pick in this year's draft, he could be good, but he's a rookie, can't rank him too high. I've also never really been a J.J. McCarthy fan. I don't think he's that good. So the Vikings starting quarterback, either Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy at number 31. Number 30 is the Patriots starter, Jacoby Brissett or Drake May. So this is another quarterback battle, but it seems very likely that Jacoby Brissett will be the Patriots starting quarterback at the beginning of the season. But at some point throughout the season, I would expect Drake May to take over. But Brissett, he's been one of the best backups in the NFL throughout the course of his career, and he can be a decent starter when needed to be, as he was solid for the Browns in 2022. But Jacoby Brissett, a great backup quarterback, but as a starter, he ranks 30th. Number 29 is the last quarterback battle we have, and that is the Raiders starting quarterback, either Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. So the Raiders are the last team where there is a little bit of uncertainty at quarterback, and you might look at these two quarterbacks for the Raiders, Minshew and O'Connell, and think they're the two worst options of the four teams that currently have ongoing quarterback battles. But I would disagree. Gardner Minshew was actually pretty good last season, throwing for a career-high 3,305 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, and almost led the Colts to the playoffs with him as their starter for the majority of the season. Now, Aiden O'Connell was the starter for the Raiders for about 11 games last year, where he threw for 2,218 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Now, I have the Raiders ranked here based on if they start Gardner Minshew, because that is what I think will end up happening, and Minshew ranks at 29. Number 28 is Bryce Young. So he gets us into the quarterbacks where you know they'll be the starting quarterback for their team. Bryce Young had a rough rookie season last year, throwing for just 2,877 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. But it's hard to put all that on him. He had no weapons and a horrible offensive line. But I don't think Bryce Young is too good, especially after last season, and he comes in at 28. Number 27, we have Will Levis of the Titans. So he enters his second NFL season, and he showed some potential last season in his limited action as the Titans starting quarterback. Like in his first game as the starter, he threw 4 touchdowns, but outside of that start, Levis wasn't great, as he finished his rookie season with 1,808 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions in 9 appearances. But Will Levis still has a ton of potential, and I'm excited to see what he can do this year as he enters the season as the unquestioned starter. Number 26, we have Commanders rookie Jayden Daniels. So he's a great dual threat quarterback, good passer, and elite rusher. Was extremely productive at LSU last season, where he won the Heisman, but obviously we've never seen him play at the NFL level, and he's at number 26. 25, we have Anthony Richardson. So despite this being his second season, he's still a pretty big question mark, because Richardson only played 4 games as a rookie before suffering a season-ending shoulder injury, and in those 4 games, he had 577 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception, while he also added 4 rushing touchdowns. But Richardson still has the potential to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and I just hope we can see him stay on the field this season. Richardson at number 25. Number 24, we've got Caleb Williams. So he is the highest ranked rookie quarterback. He has a ton of potential, great passer, great runner. Can't rank him too high because he is a rookie, but I think Caleb Williams the best rookie quarterback, and I also think the Bears have finally found themselves a quarterback. Caleb Williams enters at number 24. Number 23, we have Giants quarterback Daniel Jones. So he's a tough player to rank because he played just 6 games last season between a neck injury and a torn ACL. And in those 6 games, he wasn't very good. Daniel Jones threw 909 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Now, the season before that, he had the best season of his career, throwing for 3,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Now, I don't think Daniel Jones is too good, but this is a huge year for him because if he's not good again, the Giants are likely going to move on at the quarterback position. But Daniel Jones enters at number 23. 22nd, we have Derek Carr of the Saints. So he's another tough quarterback to rank. He's pretty inconsistent. Sometimes he looks good, other times he's terrible. Derek Carr is a solid game manager, puts up pretty good numbers, as last year he had 3,878 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 8 picks. But Derek Carr is decent. You can win some games with him as your quarterback, but he's usually not going to be the reason your team won the game. Derek Carr at number 22. 21, we have Geno Smith. So Geno took a significant step back last year after having a career year in 2022. Last season, Geno Smith threw for 3,624 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. And Geno is a lot like Derek Carr. You can win some games with him, but at this point in his career, he's probably not going to be the reason you win those games. Geno Smith enters at number 21. Number 20, we have Russell Wilson. So some people might think this is high for Russ, but he actually had a pretty good season last year before the Broncos benched him. And the Broncos didn't bench him because he was bad. They benched him because they didn't want him to get hurt and have to owe him even more money than they already did. But last year, in 15 games, Russell Wilson threw for 3,070 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. And last year was big for Russell Wilson because that showed he can still be a solid quarterback. And he enters this season where I have him ranked at number 20. Number 19 is Deshaun Watson. So Watson has been steadily declining in a lot of quarterback rankings because he's struggled to stay on the field. And when he's been on the field, he hasn't been that good. Last season, Deshaun Watson played in just 6 games for the Browns due to a shoulder injury, where he threw for 1,115 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. But Deshaun Watson really needs to have a good season, but he is at 19. 18th, we have Kyler Murray of the Cardinals. So he's another tough one to rank because he didn't play a ton last season recovering from a torn ACL, but he still has the ability to be a top 10 quarterback, similar to how we saw before he tore his ACL, but he just needs to prove it again. Last season, in the 8 games he played, Kyler Murray threw for 1,800 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. But now that he's healthy to start the season, I think he could have a great season for the Cardinals, but Kyler Murray enters at 18. Number 17, we have Baker Mayfield of the Bucs. So Baker Mayfield is coming off a great season where he had career highs in both yards and touchdowns, finishing with 4,044 yards and 28 touchdowns. Also had 10 interceptions. But last year was a great year for Baker Mayfield, earning himself an extension in Tampa, and he could have another good season after a great year last year, but I've got Baker at 17. 16, we've got Kirk Cousins. So he enters at 16. He's getting older and will be 36 by the time the season starts, and he's also coming off a very serious torn Achilles injury. But Kirk Cousins was playing really well last year before he got hurt, playing at an MVP level. In 8 games, Cousins threw for 2,331 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. But Kirk Cousins is still a good quarterback, and he will enter this season at 16. But it's interesting to see how he performs with the fact that he's getting older, coming off an injury, but also on a new team. Number 15, we've got Trevor Lawrence. So Trevor Lawrence at 15 might seem low for someone who's getting paid $55 million a season, and he's getting paid like he's a top 5 quarterback. But I think Trevor Lawrence is significantly overpaid. Now, he still has a ton of potential, but he wasn't that great last year. Lawrence threw for 4,016 yards, 21 touchdowns, but had 14 interceptions. Now, I would like to see Trevor Lawrence bounce back this season and reprove he's a top 10 quarterback, but after last year, it's hard for me to have him above 15. Maybe I can see the argument to have him a few spots higher, but definitely can't see him inside the top 12. Number 14, we've got Tua. So Tua is at 14, and some people would say that's low, especially for a player who led the NFL in passing yards last season with 4,624. And I understand that argument to have Tua higher and closer to the top 10. I even considered putting him higher, but I just think Tua is limited as a playmaker, and that's going to have him at 14. 13 is Brock Purdy. So Purdy enters at 13, and I know there's still a lot of people who don't like Brock Purdy and call him a game manager, but he is a game manager, but he is a very good quarterback as well. He's coming off a great season where he had 4,280 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, and he was top 5 in both passing yards and passing touchdowns. So if Brock Purdy can have another great season where he put up similar numbers to last season, I think we can be talking about a potential top 10 quarterback when I do my list of quarterbacks, ranking every starting quarterback next year. But right now, Brock Purdy is at 13. Number 12, we have Jared Goff. He's another player like Brock Purdy. Some people don't think he's a good quarterback, but I think Jared Goff is very good. He's coming off a great season where he was second in the NFL with 4,575 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. And he also led the Lions to the NFC Championship game and helped them win their first playoff game in 30 years. But Jared Goff, he's another player, good quarterback, and he enters at number 12. Number 11, we've got Jalen Hurts. So he took a step back last season, but still had a pretty solid year, finishing with 3,858 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. And as a rusher, he also had 605 yards and 15 touchdowns. Now, the turnovers were up for Jalen Hurts, turning the ball over 19 times last year compared to just 6 turnovers in 2022. But I have Jalen Hurts at 11, and you might be confused why he's at 11 when guys like Brock Purdy and Jared Goff and even Tua had better numbers than him last season, but I've got Jalen Hurts at 11 because of his ability as a runner. Getting into the top 10, and at number 10, we've got Jordan Love. So he's coming off a great season in his first year as the starter in Green Bay. He finished with 4,159 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. And he did a lot of that in the second half of the season. But Jordan Love looks to be another great quarterback for the Packers with the potential to have him even higher on this list next season. But I just want to see if he can have another really good season like he did last year. But Jordan Love at number 10. Number 9, we've got CJ Stroud. So he is inside the top 10 after a great rookie season where he threw for 4,108 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. And Stroud was actually on pace to break the rookie passing yards record, but he missed a couple games late in the season. But Stroud in a very similar position to Jordan Love, and if he can have another great season, he can be even higher. Number 8, we've got Matthew Stafford. So he had a big bounce back year last year, and he was able to stay healthy and show that despite his age, he is still a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Stafford last year threw for just shy of 4,000 yards, threw 24 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, but Stafford is still a great quarterback, enters at number 8. Number 7, we've got Aaron Rodgers. So Rodgers is an interesting one to rank because he played just 4 snaps last season before tearing his Achilles, and he did not complete a pass. Now in 2022, the last healthy season for Rodgers, he had a down year for his standards with 3,700 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 12 picks. Now, I still think Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback, and he enters this list at number 7, but hopefully he can play more than 4 snaps this year. Number 6, I've got Justin Herbert. So I feel like Herbert can be underrated at times, but he is a great quarterback, and last year he had the worst season of his career, but he's still a very, very good quarterback. Last year, Herbert played 13 games, throwing for 3,134 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. But Justin Herbert is still an amazing quarterback. He enters at number 6. Number 5, we've got Dak Prescott. So he was great last year with arguably the best season of his career, and he was an MVP contender for the entire season. But Dak Prescott finished 3rd in the league with 4,516 passing yards and led the league with 36 passing touchdowns, while significantly cutting down on his turnovers, having just 9 interceptions last season. But Dak Prescott coming off a great season with the Cowboys, and he enters the season at number 5. Number 4, we've got Joe Burrow. So Burrow did not have a great year last year, and he was injured for a large portion of the season, and he played through a calf injury at the beginning of the season, which clearly impacted his play. But in 10 games, Joe Burrow threw for 2,309 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Now, I think Joe Burrow should be number 3, but because he didn't have a good year last year, I've got him at number 4, but still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Another reason Burrow isn't 3 is because I have the reigning MVP Lamar Jackson at number 3. So he won the MVP for the second time in his career, was a great passer and great runner last season, threw for a career-high 3,678 yards, had 24 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, while also added 821 yards and 5 scores on the ground. But Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP, enters at number 3. Number 2, we've got Josh Allen. So he's the second best quarterback in the NFL. Some people like to hate on him for his turnovers, but even with his turnovers, he is still the second best quarterback in the NFL. Josh Allen had a great year last year at 4,306 yards, 29 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, but also added 15 rushing touchdowns. And that gives him 44 total touchdowns to 21 turnovers. And now, yes, the turnovers are high, but Josh Allen, he's so good that he is able to be the second best quarterback in the NFL despite all the turnovers. And Allen at number 2. And at number 1, you knew this was coming, it's Patrick Mahomes. He's the best quarterback in the NFL, and he had a down year last year for his standards, throwing for 4,183 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 14 picks. But he's won the Super Bowl back-to-back seasons, and he is clearly the best quarterback in the NFL without a question. But those are my quarterback rankings prior to the 2024 NFL season. Let me know in the comments where you disagree. I'm sure you disagree with some of my rankings, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on who you disagree with. But thank you for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.